Hey, this is Jeremy from Shine Insurance, and I'm here today to talk to you about musical instrument insurance coverage. So maybe you have a 100-year-old violin or more, maybe you have a vintage electric guitar, or maybe you just purchased a brand new instrument at the local music store. Whatever kind of instrument you have, it's important that you consider insuring it properly. And obviously, that's what I'm going to talk about right now. The first question is, can you insure your instrument on your homeowner's or renter's insurance policy? If you don't use it for professional use at all, you don't play out in stages, anything like that, your instrument pretty much stays at home totally, then your homeowner's or renter's policy might be the right solution. The only thing I would suggest is that you insure that instrument, especially if it's worth more than $1,000, on a special little tiny policy as a part of your homeowner's insurance policy. You want to make sure that policy is at least replacement cost coverage, and if it's a vintage instrument or has been around for a long time, kind of like an antique car, you want to insure it with what's called agreed value. You can talk to your insurance agents about the meaning of those two words or look it up obviously in other places on YouTube, but you want to make sure that at least replacement cost is on your policy, and best case, especially if you have a vintage instrument, agreed value. Now, if you take your instrument out of your home, or if your instrument is extremely valuable and it's vintage, you want to get a specific insurance policy for your musical instruments. You can get that from just a few different companies that are out there. The one that I suggest is Anderson Group Musical Instruments, and you can find them by Googling Anderson Group Musical Instruments, and you'll find them right away. You can apply right there online, and they'll have a quote to you within 24 hours. These folks specialize in insuring your valuable or vintage musical instruments. Some of the coverages that they're going to provide that are not provided on your homeowner's insurance policy are as follows. The first one is professional use. If you go out and you make money, you teach lessons, you play in a band or a symphony or some kind of orchestra or quartet, all of those activities are considered professional use, and your homeowner's or renter's policy is not going to cover if your instrument is damaged or stolen. So that's one reason to get a professional use policy or an Anderson Group musical instrument policy, is simply professional use. The other is that it takes the deductible down. Your homeowner's policy probably has at least $1,000 deductible. So if your instrument is stolen or if some damage happens to your instrument, you're going to be on the hook for the first $1,000, and the insurance company will cover whatever's left. With these policies, you have a much lower deductible. Some companies even offer a $0 deductible. I would suggest sticking with about a $250 deductible so you pay less for the actual insurance premium, and if you have a loss, if something bad happens to your instrument, then you pay $250. That's obviously more than zero, but you saved some significant money in your premium, and if you didn't have any claims or anything like that, then you're actually saving money. So you can get as low as a $0 deductible. I would suggest looking for one with about a $250 deductible. So the lower deductible is the second reason to get a musical instrument insurance policy. The third one is pretty important, especially if you have incredibly valuable instruments. And that's simply that these insurance companies out there that specially insure musical instruments actually know how to repair instruments. So if you have a $100,000 violin and that violin is damaged in some way, if you have a regular old insurance company, they may not have the knowledge of what it actually means to fix your instrument. And places like Anderson Group are going to take great care of you. They are going to make sure that real luthiers are fixing your instrument if it is indeed able to be fixed. That gets me to the next thing that comes with musical instrument policies that this also does not come with a homeowner's policy or renters, and that is called diminished value coverage. Think about your $20,000 drum set. If you lose a tom or your bass drum is broken, even after we fix that drum, your set may not be worth what it was worth before. If that drum set was worth $20,000 before the damage happened, even after it's fixed, it may only be valued at $15,000. You got your drum set fixed, but you lost $5,000 in value associated with your instrument. It's just like nice artwork. If a piece of artwork is damaged, even after it's fixed, it's not going to be worth the same amount it was before. With the Anderson Group policy and many other musical instrument policies, they'll offer what's called diminished value coverage. In that drum example I gave you, if it was worth $20,000 before and it's worth $15,000 after it's fixed, they're going to write you a check for the $5,000 difference. You lost that value in your instrument. They're going to reimburse you for that loss. So diminished value coverage, definitely want to make sure that you have that. Another important thing that these kinds of policies have is what's called all risk coverage. Now, your homeowner's policy can have all different kinds of coverage, and that's a whole nother conversation in and of itself. But your instruments are only going to be covered for the bad things that could happen that your homeowner's policy covers. And oftentimes that's a very small group of things. A fire and a tornado are generally included in all policies. But other things that happen, especially things that aren't named, can be excluded from homeowners or renters policies. Great musical instrument policies not only cover all risk coverage, which is called special perils on a lot of types of insurance policies, but the Anderson Group policy that I'm super familiar with also covers flood, which is almost never covered on homeowners or renters policies, and it covers earthquake, which is oftentimes not covered on homeowners or renters policies either. So with those specialized musical instrument coverage, a lot of times the breadth of what damage is covered is wider than a homeowner's or a renter's policy. Let's make sure I got everything in there. So we talked about agreed value is what we want our insurance policy to value our instrument at. That means if I have an appraisal that says it's worth $10,000, when something bad happens to it or if it's stolen, I am going to get $10,000. The insurance company isn't going to go out and look at how much they can get me a new one for and just give me that amount of money. So agreed value protects the amount of money that you feel that your instrument is appraised for and makes sure if something bad happens, it's either fixed or you get that exact amount of money that you have it appraised for. We talked about deductibles. We can bring the deductible down by having a musical instrument policy. We talked about knowledge of how to fix your instrument if something bad happens to it. Musical instrument policies, definitely. The people who are in charge of those have much better knowledge of who can fix your instrument properly and how that can be done properly. We talked about diminished value. If your instrument is damaged and even when it's fixed, it's not worth as much as it was worth before, the insurance company is going to write you a check for the difference in the appraised value from before it was damaged to after it was damaged. And finally, we talked about the types of things that are covered. Homeowners policies and renters policies vary widely in what is actually covered. Musical instrument insurance policies, especially the ones provided by Anderson Group, have coverage for not only special perils coverage, which is an insurance term for the best kind, but also add in flood and earthquake, which is even better than most homeowners policies. So, if this makes you feel like you need a musical instrument insurance policy, I want you to go to Google right now and look up Anderson Group musical instruments. There's a real easy way to get a quote for your musical instrument coverage. The great thing about Anderson Group is their base policy is only $150 a year for up to $23,000 in instrument value. So even if you have a bunch of instruments, as long as the value of all of them together doesn't go over $23,000, you're only going to pay $150 a month for that policy. That's an amazing policy with all the coverages that I just talked about. And you can get that for $150. So if you have a musical instrument that fits the description that I just gave you, I would go straight over to Anderson Group Musical Instruments and get your policy from them. By the way, make sure to let them know that Shine Insurance sent you, so they know that where you came from, you obviously care about your instrument and you actually are interested in taking care of it properly. If you have any other questions, please leave a comment below this video. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I've got lots of great videos on insurance and all other kinds of things that I love to share with you. So until the next time, have a wonderful day.